How's it going, Misfits family? Welcome back here for episode 8 here on the Reynolds Sports Report. I'm your host, Jude Reynolds Ocanas, as always. And thank you for joining me here on, like I said, episode 8. We're here on Thursday. It's about 9:32 p.m. on a Thursday night. I hope all of you guys are having a wonderful Thursday night and hope you had a wonderful Thursday day as well. I certainly did. Had an off day from my job. That's why I do love my Mondays and Thursdays, an opportunity to not drive an hour to Thousand Oaks or any other ballpark. It's an opportunity to relax, go to the gym, do my own self-need. But of course, I'm going to bring you guys another episode here on episode 8. And we got to talk about the NBA draft. Honestly, that is what we are here to talk about all of today. Because, look, to be fair, there was a lot of anticipation. Cooper Flagg, obviously, finally found his home, which I think we knew for the past 3-4 months, or pretty much that the Dallas Mavericks had miraculously somehow got the number 1 overall pick, which, this is not a show for conspiracy theories. I'm going to leave that to E. Lamb, the man himself. He's a big advocate for conspiracy theories. So I'm going to leave that to him. He could discuss, maybe we could talk about it on a show together. But for the time being, I want to start with the San Antonio Spurs, because the San Antonio Spurs came into this NBA draft with 2 lottery picks, the number 2 pick and the number 14 pick. With their number 2 pick, they took Dylan Harper, and with their number 14 pick, they took Carter Bryant. And as you see by this segment, the Spurs are poised to kill 2026. They are going to have a strong 2026 because not only of this draft, but how they have built this foundation leading up to this draft. I want to talk about their picks, first of all. Dylan Harper with the number 2 overall pick, a star freshman out of Rutgers University. Look, he averaged 19 points past season, 4 assists, and 4 total rebounds. This is someone who is a crafty ball handler. He can finish around the rim at will. His jumper could become a little bit more consistent. He already has lineage of NBA talent. His father, Ron Harper, was in the NBA for many years, a 5-time NBA champion, as well as his brother, Ron Harper Jr., is in the NBA. But Dylan Harper is special because he's the first really point guard of this family and someone that could facilitate just as much as he can score. But I think the thing that steps out and what I want to direct this to is he had the 3rd highest percentage in the Big Ten of usage at 29%, and he only finished the season with 2.4 turnovers. If you didn't watch Rutgers basketball, I don't blame you. Rutgers wasn't very good this year. I mean, it truly was Ace Bailey, who went number 5 to the Utah Jazz, and Dylan Harper, who was pretty much the duo that was carrying the load, right? It was a lot of fun, but we knew at the end of the day, it wasn't going to last. They didn't have a supporting cast to do it, to go all the way, especially just in the Big Ten, but obviously in the March Madness tournament. They were the only source of offense. The only source of offense. So Dylan Harper not only had to man the scoring, he had to man the facilitating, and he also had to play some good defense. So first of all, the Spurs are locked in with a guy like Dylan Harper, and now you put him in a backcourt that now has Stephon Castle and De'Aaron Fox. You add in Dylan Harper, who I will say all 3 of those players bring different assets, which I'm going to get to in a second. You talk about Carter Bryant at number 14. Now, this guy's a little bit more raw, right? He's coming in 19 years old, freshman from Arizona. He's not, the scorer that Dylan Harper is, but he is a lot better of a defender. He has a wingspan of 6'11", practically 7 foot if you want to, measure up or round up for you mathematicians. But he has a 6'11" wingspan. And I'm talking his defensive presence is going to be immediately felt in San Antonio. And especially for a team that prides themselves and has a long lineage of creating dynasties, defense has won those championships for them. You look at guys like Kawhi Leonard back in 2012 when they won a championship. He was the heart and soul, but he didn't even play that much offense. He wasn't the offensive guru that he is now. All he was is he provided really good defense. Carter Bryant is going to do that. He averaged 6 points, 4 rebounds. He also averaged a block a game. His splits weren't great. He shot 46% from the field, 37% from the 3-point, and 69% from free throw. So that's something you're going to have to get better at. But I'll tell you this. If you're a Spurs fan, you could be optimistic about his shooting because, look, I'm not an all-world class shooter. I will say, I step on the rack. I'm going to hit my threes when I need to be. But his mechanics are good. He's not coming into the NBA with poor mechanics. He's actually coming in with pretty good mechanics. You watch Carter Bryant highlights. I was actually just watching them before this for some research purposes and for you guys. His mechanics are good. I mean, especially as a catch-up shooter, and that's what he's going to be for the San Antonio Spurs. He's going to be a 3-and-D guy. So you're going to pair all of this of a Dylan Harper, crafty guard, left-hander, who can get a bucket at his own time, and Carter Bryant, who is a freak athlete and a defensive presence, as well as a 3-and-D guy who can spot up and shoot the three-pointer occasionally. It's obviously going to have to become more consistent. But I look at this core now, and I say you got Victor Wembanyama, De'Aaron Fox, Stephon Castle. You add in Carter Bryant, Dylan Harper, and they got Devin Vassell, Keldon Johnson. They got a few other guys on that bench. Look, I think the next step for the Spurs is going to be adding a free agent center. I think the Spurs need to take the approach of what the Thunder just did. They said, okay, we got Chet Holmgren, who's special, right? He's a very good center, but he's someone that is a little bit more crafty than your traditional center. So we need to pair him with a traditional center. So they went over to New York and said, hey, we're going to take Isaiah Hartenstein. I apologize. They're going to take Isaiah Hartenstein and pair him. And then both of them kind of cancel out their weaknesses, and look at where they are now, NBA champions. So if you're the San Antonio Spurs, I'm looking at this to say, okay, you have a really strong core right now. It's still young. It's still going to take a few, maybe a year or two to build this up. But I look at the Spurs team. They finished 34-48 last year. This is a 40-win team next year. This is a 40-win team next year. And I believe it's a 40-win team this year because of who their new head coach is. That's Mitch Johnson. And I just got done watching his press conference interview. And the first thing that stood out is he is praised by Greg Popovich, highly praised at that by Greg Popovich. And that's probably the best praise you could get outside of maybe a Phil Jackson. Okay. Out of NBA coaches, NBA legend coaches, Hall of Fame coaches, it doesn't get better than that. And this is someone that has spent his past 9 years with the San Antonio Spurs organization. He spent the first 3 in 2016 and 2019 as the G League coach for the Austin Spurs. And then since 2019 has been an assistant coach, has been learning alongside the bench of Greg Popovich. And Greg Popovich is one of a kind. I'm not saying Mitch Johnson is going to come here and be Greg Popovich. He's going to be himself because that's what Greg Popovich taught him to be. He said, learn to be confident in yourself and do it your way. And I think that is so important especially for a coach that players respect him. He even came in last year pretty much as the interim coach for half that season after Greg Popovich sadly went down with a stroke, or I shouldn't say went down with a stroke, but suffered from a stroke and had to, take off the rest of the season. There's a lot of praise in this building for Mitch Johnson. I'm not saying Mitch Johnson is head coach of the year day one, but I'm saying you have a strong head coach. He's a young head coach. He's only 39 years old. You bring out top that you got a young core, a hungry core, and you have Victor Wembanyama, guys. I don't need to reiterate who that is. Victor Wembanyama. We're talking about a unicorn. And I think they nailed it with their first two picks, Dylan Harper and Carter Bryant. But moving forward, staying in the state of Texas, I just want to talk about Texas basketball, okay? We're talking about a Western Conference that holds 3 teams from Texas. You got the Dallas Mavericks, the Houston Rockets, and the San Antonio Spurs, who I just talked about. I am so excited for any matchup. If it's Rockets Spurs, Mavericks Spurs, you name it, Houston Dallas, whatever it may be, all these teams have now gotten better this offseason, all right? You look at the Houston Rockets. They just added 2-time NBA champion finals MVP, Kevin Durant, who still at his age is averaging 26 points last year with the Phoenix Suns. I mean, Kevin Durant is probably one of the greatest scorers in our generation. And they just added Kevin Durant, and they still kept pretty much most of their young core. Yes, they got rid of Jalen Williams, which sucks. But they still have Amen Thompson, who showed progression his first 2 seasons in the NBA. They got Alperen Sengun, who, all will call his baby Jokic, but he is truly special. And they're going to keep building around. And it's the same situation. They got Ime Udoka as the coach. So they have a strong coach. They got a strong core. The Houston Rockets, who just finished number 2 in the Western Conference. Do I think they're going to finish number 2 in the Western Conference? Probably not. But it's a good starting step. And if Fred VanVleet can be a little better this season, that's a strong core right there. You talk about the Dallas Mavericks. Now, obviously, Cooper Flagg, I'm not going to sit here, guys, and I've seen all the shows. What are the expectations for Cooper Flagg? I'm not here to do that. I really don't want to do that. But I will tell you that Kyrie Irving, Cooper Flagg, and Anthony Davis, if they all stay healthy, that's a top 6 team in the Western Conference. That's a top 6 team in the Western Conference, guys. You add in the fact that they got Derek Lively and Daniel Gafford. Granted, not both of those players might be there. You keep one of those. If you keep Derek Lively, you pair him with Anthony Davis. That's a tough front court. And we'll see what Cooper Flagg does. I mean, you still have Kyrie Irving, maybe a few more free agency additions. And I'll say this. I will say this. And I was shocked that Ryan Nembhard, the point guard for Gonzaga, the brother of Andrew Nembhard, who is just part of a historic Pacers run to the finals, fell to an undrafted free agent, and he's headed to Dallas. Look, undrafted free agent, it's obviously going to take some time for him to gain some minutes and get real playing time. But if he's anything like his brother, Ryan Nembhard just led college basketball in assists per game at 9.8. If he brings that to the Dallas Mavericks, I mean, this is also going to be a tough team to stop in the Western Conference. And I just talked about the San Antonio Spurs. So it's going to be a bloodbath. It's going to be very exciting in Texas. I'm going to be tuning into those games. I hope they put some of them on national television because any one of those games is going to be exciting. And it just goes to the bigger picture of the Western Conference next year is going to be loaded. Just absolutely loaded. I mean, you look at OKC, they're going to finish top 3. The Lakers probably aren't going to finish 3rd. Still a playoff team. Denver, still a playoff team. Clippers, still a playoff team. Minnesota, probably going to be better than 6th seed that they were this year. Golden State, they're always going to be in the conversation. Memphis, we'll see what Memphis does. I know they trade Desmond Bane. They still got Ja and Jaren Jackson. They just haven't really lived up to that potential since the Western Conference Finals appearance back when they played the Warriors in 2022. You got Sacramento. Interesting team. I don't think Sacramento will be 9th seed. Dallas, I think San Antonio, New Orleans, both those teams, they've kind of gone in the right direction recently. I think there's 10 teams that are going to be extremely competitive in the Western Conference. But I don't want to get off topic. I mean, I could talk about the Western Conference being loaded all day, every day. So Cooper Flagg was just drafted as the number 1 overall pick. And it got me thinking. And I know this is not fun to do where it's you're like, who's the greatest? Who's the best? You know, I don't need to bring Elam or Mikkel here to tell me the definition of what the best or what the greatest is. But you know what? Forget that. What is the greatest high school basketball team of all time? And the reason I bring that up is Montverde, an academy down in Florida that has just produced talent year after year in basketball, just saw 4 of their guys in their 2024 roster from their high school basketball 2024 roster go drafted in the first round. Cooper Flagg was the number 1 overall pick by the Dallas Mavericks. Derek Queen was a lottery pick at number 13 for the New Orleans Pelicans. Asa Newell from Georgia was the number 23 pick for the Atlanta Falcons, Atlanta Hawks. And the number 29 pick for the Charlotte Hornets was Liam McNeely. That's 4 guys from one school. By the way, they were all 4 McDonald's All-Americans coming out of high school. They're now all 4 first-round picks. They all were valuable assets to their college team. Cooper Flagg drove the engine, drove basically the freight train that was Duke. Derek Queen was a star in Maryland. I mean, he was probably one of the best freshmen, if not the best freshman in Maryland or just in the Big Ten. Asa Newell, freak athlete for Georgia. Obviously, Georgia didn't have the great season, but Georgia basketball hasn't really been that great. I mean, they had Anthony Edwards and they couldn't do much. So, and Asa Newell, he's a forward, but I'm not excusing that. And then Liam McNeely was a sharpshooter for UConn. I mean, UConn was not obviously the dominance that they were in the past 2 seasons where they won back-to-back championships, but Liam McNeely tried their best to keep them afloat, and they did. I mean, they made a solid run in the March Madness this past season. So the reason I bring this conversation is say the greatest high school basketball team of all time. It's because there's another Montverde team, 2019. If you're unfamiliar with them, it's Cadenham. Cadenham. If you don't know what I'm talking about, Cade Cunningham, Scotty Barnes, Moses Moody, Caleb Houston, Dariq Whitehead, Deron Sharp, and Ryan Nembhard, who I just mentioned was just drafted by the Dallas Mavericks. That is 8 guys that went league bound from one high school basketball team. I apologize. That's 7. That's 7 guys from one high school team that went league bound. Now not all of them are the impact players that a Cade Cunningham is, right? Cade Cunningham, one of the highest NBA players paid right now. He was also an all-star this past season. He was third-team All-NBA. Scotty Barnes was the 2022 Rookie of the Year. He's a one-time all-star. Moses Moody, 2022 NBA champion. Outside of that, like a lackluster career, but he still cut himself out a role with Golden State. And then Caleb Houston, Dariq Whitehead, and Daron Sharp have found their roles. Caleb Houston is kind of near the end of the bench for the Orlando Magic, and then Daron Sharp and Dariq Whitehead they're on a really bad Brooklyn Nets team. But they're in the NBA. I'm not discrediting it. They are in the NBA. But I think this 2024 Montverde team has the potential to be the greatest high school basketball team we have ever seen. You have Cooper Flagg headlining it, and then you have three guys who I believe, at least Derek Queen, is going to be a star. I think that New Orleans Pelicans team are going to love Derek Queen. Liam McNeely is a sharpshooter. Do I think he's going to thrive in Charlotte? Probably not. He'll probably get traded and end up having a really good career somewhere else. But both teams went undefeated. They both won their last championship as seniors. And in fact, in 2024, the Montverde team had a 34-point win margin. 30 of their games were won by double digits. So time will only tell. And that I'm not going to lay the case for 2020 Montverde because none of them have played an NBA minute. They could all stink. Even Cooper Flagg included. They could all stink. Okay, they could be really good college players, but they could stink. And that would completely kill this argument. But I'm putting it out there. And we'll revisit this in 3-4 years when these guys have pretty much got to the end of their rookie contract and said, were they the best high school basketball team? Because if 3 out of 4 of those guys are starters, adding valuable minutes, I think they are. You look at the track record and where those players have risen to in the ranks of professional basketball. It's hard to say. They're not the greatest basketball team of all time. But one story that is greater than all, and honestly the most inspirational story that I've seen, Cedric Coward. He was drafted just recently, a day ago, in the lottery. Number 11 pick by the Memphis Grizzlies. You're asking, Jude, why would this 11th overall pick really concern me? Well, I think it's a story about never giving up. See, Cedric Coward didn't just start his career as a D1 athlete. He didn't just come up in the ranks and say, oh, I'm him. I'm number 1 overall in Washington. I'm going to be that guy. No. He was barely recruited out of high school. In fact, he went to a D3 school his freshman season, Willamette University. But he took advantage of every second he had. He was named Northwest Conference Freshman of the Year. He was first team All-Northwest, averaging 19 points per game and 12 rebounds. And actually, I have a personal story to this guy, which is crazy. It is crazy. I have a personal. My roommate, shout out Henry, keep his government name out there. Shout out Henry, who is at USC with me. We're both rising seniors. Was thinking about going to play college basketball, and Henry wasn't a very highly recruited guy coming out of Bellarmine High School in Tacoma, Washington. But he had a few offers, and one of those was actually Willamette University. And he took a visit down there, and he actually met Cedric Coward. And he went to Cedric Coward's dorm room. They were chilling. They were vibing. And Cedric Coward told him straight up, I'm talking straight up, said, yeah, bro, you better not commit here. I'm not going to be here next year. So Cedric Coward would then move he would go to Eastern Washington the next 2 seasons, ball out there. He was Big Sky All First Team, unanimous his junior season, as well as NABC All District First Team. He led Eastern Washington in total points at 494, points per game, rebounds, and blocks as a junior. And so finally, after his junior season, he said, you know what? I need 1 more year. I need 1 more year to prove myself. He would then transfer to Washington State for his final season. Unfortunately, it was cut short after 6 games due to a left shoulder injury, but he was still West Coast Conference all preseason team. And in those 6 games, he averaged 17 points per game, 7 rebounds, 3.7 assists, as well as pretty much 2 blocks a game. And so all of that has culminated to being a lottery pick. And I wanted to share this story, and this is a great way to go out here on a Thursday night here at 9:51. And I appreciate all of you guys joining along. Never give up on your dreams. Look, I'm an aspiring broadcaster. I want to be up there with the Kevin Harlans, the Jim Nances, right? Like that is my goal. But everyone has a different path. You don't have to follow the path that you see your peers take. And a guy like Cedric Coward had proved that. Doesn't matter where you start. It doesn't matter the process that you have to go through. You will get to your goal if you work hard and are obsessed and absolutely love what you do. And Cedric Coward is just another story in the inspirational stories of human life. And so I wish the best for Cedric Coward. You know, I hope he really shines in Memphis, wherever he may go. You know, maybe the NBA doesn't work out as plays professional basketball, but I think it's important to remember that never give up on your dreams. But your dreams can't become reality until you work at them. So don't just sleep on your dreams, work on your dreams. And I think that's how I'm going to exit out here on episode 8 of the Reynolds Sports Report. I hope you guys are all having a wonderful Thursday night. And hope you guys have a great weekend. I'll see you guys back on Monday. I actually will be having a special guest. I'm very excited. Be able to talk a few sports that I don't typically talk here. It's going to be an exciting show. I'm bringing on one of my good friends onto the show on Monday. But you guys have a great rest of your weekend. And enjoy the weekend. As always, I'm Jude Reynolds Ocanas, and this has been the Reynolds Sports Report. I'll see you guys next week.